Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. We're jumping straight into the fascinating and honestly pretty terrifying layers of William Golding's Lord of the Flies. Now, since you're probably already familiar with the story, a bunch of British schoolboys whose makeshift island society violently crashes and burns, we're going to skip the basic plot summary. Instead, we're diving deep into the complex historical, religious, and modern theoretical frameworks operating just beneath the surface. So let's get into it.
Here's our roadmap for today. First, subverting the Coral Island. Then, symbols of civilization's fall. Third, a deep biblical allegory. Fourth, an eco-feminist perspective. And finally, the beast within us.
All right, Section 1, Subverting the Coral Island.
To really get Lord of the Flies, you have to understand that it was written as a direct, almost aggressive reaction to a 19th century novel called The Coral Island. That older story was incredibly optimistic. R.M. Ballantyne basically assumed stranded boys would naturally build this polite, good-natured little society. Well, Golding completely flipped that script. His text is deeply pessimistic. He's arguing that humans are actually naturally evil, and that what we call civilization is really just a fragile device we use to keep that inner darkness locked up.
And this bleak shift, it wasn't just random pessimism. Golding's own deeply traumatic experiences completely rewired his view of human nature. You see, he fought in World War II. He actually participated in the D-Day landings at Normandy. He saw the brutal decline of the British Empire firsthand, and a world just totally ravaged by war. So the old idea that mankind was inherently good, that was shattered for him. He walked away believing that men are naturally warlike and savage the second you strip away the rules of society.
Section 2. Symbols of civilization's fall. Now, what's really fascinating is how Golding anchors this abstract idea of societal decay to actual physical objects on the island. Take the conch shell, for example. It starts off as the ultimate tool of civilized democracy. They find it on the beach, and they use it to call assemblies. It basically acts as a talking stick. Whoever holds it has the absolute right to speak. In Ralph's hands, it represents order, reasoning, and their desperate attempt to recreate the democratic world they just left behind.
But then, Jack's aggression starts to rise, and we see the power of that conch and the civilized rules it represents just violently shut down. Jack literally screams, "The conch doesn't count on top of the mountain, you shut up." And that right there is the turning point. The moment the conch's authority is challenged and eventually destroyed, civilization on the island is gone. Period.
Now this fragile order is paralleled by another massive symbol, Piggy's glasses. These glasses are the tools of intellect, of scientific thinking. They're literally what allows the boys to harness nature's fire, which is the very first building block of civilization. But as things fall apart, those glasses are stolen and shattered. It's this powerful symbol of the progressive decay of rational thought. Brute force literally blinds intellect.
And finally, we reach the titular Lord of the Flies. It isn't some giant Hollywood monster. It's a severed, rotting pig's head, swarming with flies, jammed on a stick as a crude offering. When it, quote-unquote, speaks to Simon in a vision, it confirms the true, inescapable source of the horror on the island. In fact, the phrase Lord of the Flies is a direct translation of the Greek word Beelzebub, which draws a straight line to the devil and humanity's terrifying potential for pure tyranny.
Which brings us to Section 3. A deep biblical allegory. When we map out the narrative, the parallels between these stranded schoolboys and the oldest stories in the Bible are undeniable. Golding interweaves these situations to hold the boys up against the highest ethical standards of the Bible, only to show them failing completely. The island itself starts as this untouched paradise, mirroring the Garden of Eden. The bitter rivalry between Jack and Ralph echoes Cain and Abel. And Simon? Simon acts as a very clear stand-in for Jesus Christ. Let's look a little closer at Jack and Ralph. Jack's attempted murder of Ralph stems from a deeply personal, Cain-like darkness. He hurls his spear with, quote, full intention. This isn't just some tactical survival move, it's born out of boiling mortification and spite. It perfectly mirrors Cain's deep-seated jealousy and ultimate sin against his brother Abel.
Meanwhile, you have Simon standing entirely apart from the rest of them. He frequently retreats to this hidden spot deep in the jungle, walled with aromatic bushes and bathed in this ethereal heat and light. It's essentially a secluded, Eden-like paradise. Simon is the only one who has access to this space, which really highlights his passive, almost divine purity, while the rest of the boys are just spiraling into corruption.
Simon is basically the island's prophet. He actually predicts Ralph's survival, telling him you'll get back all right, while remaining inconceivably selfless about his own fate. He's the only one who intuitively understands that the real beast is just human nature. But tragically, when he rushes down the mountain to reveal this truth, he is violently crucified. The other boys, completely overtaken by their inherent savagery, leap on him with claws and teeth. They literally slaughter their only source of spiritual truth.
Moving on to Section 4, an eco-feminist perspective. Let's pivot entirely and look at this exact same story through a modern academic lens.
Here is a glaring question. In a book entirely about boys, teeming with male-centered descriptions, where on earth are the women? Literally, the only female mentioned is Piggy's aunt, and she's totally invisible and just used for ridicule. So, what does this complete absence of female characters tell us about the world Golding built?
Well, according to ecofeminist theory, which looks at the link between the degradation of nature and the oppression of women, the boys' horrific actions actually stem from a deeply ingrained patriarchal impulse. This master mentality drives the boys to subjugate and exploit everything around them, and since there are no actual women around, nature itself becomes the feminized entity that the boys try to dominate. It's a fascinating dynamic that scholars argue still reflects how modern society treats the natural world today. Even the opposing forces on the island fit into this framework. Ralph's civilized conch and Jack's violent knife are both interpreted by scholars as phallic symbols of male authority striving to possess nature. The conch represents a rational, intelligent dominance that democratically tries to control who gets to speak. Jack's knife, on the other hand, represents violent male dominance and physical conquest. But at the end of the day, both are tools used by men to subdue their environment.
And this brings us to one of the most disturbing scenes in the entire book, the terrifying slaughter of the nursing sow. This isn't just a hunt for food. Ecofeminist scholars argue that it visually represents the joint, violent suppression of both the feminine and the natural environment. As they chant and cut her throat, they aren't just killing a pig, they are actively defiling and destroying Mother Nature, showcasing the absolute brutality of unchecked patriarchal dominance.
Finally, Section 5, the beast within us.
So the absolute crucial point we arrive at, no matter which analytical lens we use, brings us right back to looking in the mirror. The beast is never a physical monster hiding on a mountain. As the Lord of the Flies tells Simon, I'm part of you. The beast is the innate human impulse toward destruction, tyranny, and savagery that lives in absolutely everyone. The boys literally worship it like a god, surrendering to their darkest impulses, and then blaming them on external forces. It's a chilling reminder that this potential for savagery isn't just confined to some kids on an island. It's something every single human has to actively keep in check.
And Golding himself explicitly stated this. In a publicity questionnaire for the book, he said, "The theme is an attempt to trace the defects of society back to the defects of human nature." His core message is that the shape of any society depends entirely on the ethical nature of the individual, not on whatever seemingly logical political system you put in place. If the individual is fundamentally flawed, the society is going to fail, period.
As we reach the end of the novel, just look at the island setting. What started as this untouched paradise has devolved into a scarred, burning reflection of human destruction. There is a massive manhunt underway, and right as Ralph is about to be murdered, an adult naval officer arrives to supposedly rescue the boys from their burning island.
But this rescue is the ultimate dark irony. As they board a warship that is heading straight back into a global, grown-up war where millions of people are killing each other, we realize the adults are enmeshed in the exact same evil as the children. We are left to ponder Golding's most chilling, provocative thought. And who will rescue the adult and his cruiser? Thanks for exploring this with me today. I really hope it gives you a whole new lens through which to view this incredible story.